Sanctity of life is something that we find very important on our side of the house. And we'll be showing you why the sanctity of life of these babies, in quote, is something that should not be in question in this debate. This debate has lost a lot of clarity. And from closing government, I'll be giving you what this debate really should have been about from the very beginning. To do this, I'll be telling you about the nature of the stem cells that we get from these babies and why and what makes them intrinsically better than the stem cells you get from adults. So basically, what you get from the stem cells, please, basically, when the sperm fertilizes an ovum, you get one cell. This cell is capable of developing into any organ you want. It is capable of developing into a heart. It's capable of developing into a brain. It's capable of developing into any organ in the human body. This is what makes it different. This is what makes it better than the stem cells you get from adults. And this is why you cannot basically say this debate is about 3-year-old babies, 2-year-old babies, or 1-year-old babies. This debate is about these embryos that have not even developed into what you can say a human being, first of all. This is what this debate really should have been about in the first place. So the question of whether the babies will die as a result of all these things should not have come up at all. Please see. Now, we give you 3 things on contextualization from closing government. First of all, we tell you again that the embryos like preservation should be something that is not in question. For reasons I have said earlier in my opening something about the fact that we are not talking about actual babies in this form. We're talking about this fertilized sperm. We're talking about this fertilized cell that has just been fertilized. So we are not talking about babies that have been developed. Yes.
Well, how is it that embryos have cells that can be used? This debate is about babies that are not.
All right. Let me just clarify. Okay, let me take it.
We don't need the medical education. It's irrelevant. The motion already says that what people are asking you is if 3-year-old babies had the same qualities or 25-year-old men or women, would you sanction killing them?
Panel, please recognize these guys are straying away once again from the context of this debate. 25-year-old men or 3-year-old babies cannot have the characteristics of the stem cells we are talking about in this debate. For reasons I have told you earlier, these stem cells, I've told you why they are important and why we think they are better than normal stem cells you can get from an adult human. Listen, guys, the moment when you begin to say you want to harvest stem cells from a 1-year-old baby or a 1-day-old baby for that matter, you lose relevance in this debate. Because these babies already have stem cell characteristics that are equal to the stem cell characteristics you have in normal adults. So that is not what this debate should have been about in the first place. Now, second thing on contextualization we give you is about the fact that the organs that are created from these stem cells as a result will not be for sale. These guys will only be required to just pay for the procedure. So the issue of whether we are now encouraging the sale of human organs should not even be a question in this debate. To the extent whereby these guys are not actually paying for the organs, they are only paying for the procedure. Now, let's talk about our arguments. First of all, we tell you about how this brings about an advancement of medical research. We tell you about the history of medical research in and of itself, and about how we tell you about the history of medical research in and of itself, and tell you about how it brings about an advancement of medical research. So we tell you that the use of these stem cells to produce organs for humans who would have ordinarily died is something that should not be it's something that should be encouraged in this debate, because think about this will bring about an advancement of medical research. Medical research is something that has gone on from a very long time ago, and we think that these are the forms of research that will bring about a lot of stuff. So secondly, we tell you about individual autonomy, how individuals have the right to do whatever it is they want with their human cells or whatever it is that they want with their organs. So we think it is okay for human beings to decide that I want to donate my sperm cell or I want to donate my ovum to produce a particular embryo that will help to save so many people's lives or save my own life in the long run. We think that because the government should not decide what human beings can do with themselves or what they can do with their body organs, that this stands. To the extent whereby the government does not prevent people from donating organs, we think that this stands in today's debate. To the extent whereby people can actually also decide that they want to sell their own sperm cells or they want to sell their own ova. We think that this should not actually be something that should you guys are out. We think that this is something that should not actually be in question in today's debate. Secondly, we tell you about the fact that the ethical reasons that these guys bring from their side of the house should not be something that should stand, right? Because we tell you about the fact that the ethical reasons that they bring should not be something that should stand in today's debate. Because basically, if we were to consider all the ethical reasons in many of the medical research that has been going on in this place, we would not advance medically. We tell you that in times past, people used to drink animal blood when they need blood transfusion. To the extent whereby people now decided that they can actually transfuse human blood to them, we think that this is brought about a form of medical advancement. And if we begin to consider all the ethical reasons that people have for not accepting some certain things, we would not proceed in the medical field. And we think that this is something that is very bad, because there will have people that will continue to die with diseases that we could have ordinarily cared cured if we had done all these things. Now, in as much as we think that opening opposition is out of this debate, let's engage some of the few things that they bring to you, right? They tell you about the fact that we have alternatives. We think that in as much as we have alternatives that they think would work, we say that these alternatives are stuff that will not actually work in the first place. So what are these alternatives that I think that they're talking about? They're talking about the normal processes of organ donation that we have, right? We think that to the extent whereby we have a vast number of human beings that need organs and have very little organs to supply to them, that these alternatives are alternatives that should not actually stand in today's debate at all. Now, the next thing that they bring to you about is about the fact that only rich people can afford it and that they will push for things that will benefit them in the first place. We tell you that if this were to be a consideration, they would not have so many important things that we have in society today. If we were to consider the fact that rich people will not be able to afford some certain things, we will not have so many things in the society because we already have stuff in society that poor people cannot ordinarily afford. If this were to be a major consideration, they would not even advance in society at all. There will be no technology, there will be no development, and will be stagnant. This is something that we think is extremely important in today's debate. The last thing they bring to you from their side of the house that we think is also very not good is about the fact that these embryos have no choice in the matter. We tell you, the babies rather have no choice in the matter. I think this has already been dealt with in my speech when I told you about the fact that we are not talking about human beings that are born or human beings that are grown. We're talking about embryos who have this specific special characteristics of stem cells that we're talking about in this debate panel. The opening half of this debate is out because they have failed to engage what the debate truly should be about. If we were talking about stem cells from 3-year-old babies, 2-year-old babies, or 1-year-old babies, those stem cells are not different from stem cells you find in normal human beings. The stem cells we are talking about here are stem cells that have the ability to produce any organs you want in human beings. This is what makes these stem cells particularly important. Sanctity of life of the embryo or human being in quotes should not be in question for the reasons I've given you earlier in my speech. I've never been more proud to do both.